may have noticed there are a lot of homes that once needed some love that have been restored. Florida's housing recovery is attracting house flippers. In fact, Realty Track reports over the last few months, 5 of the nation's top 7 housing markets for home flips were right here in the Sunshine State. I had a chance to speak with a local realtor about the changes in the market. Joining me now, our friend Liane Jamason from Smith & Associates. Welcome, always good to see you.
Thank you.
So we want to talk about flipping houses. That seems to be like the big thing now. I know I live in a flipped house. I know that you lived in a flipped house. We've all seen the reality TV shows about flipping houses. Let's just start at the beginning. What is flipping a house?
Generally, it's when an investor buys a house at a low price, guts it and fixes it up and puts it back on the market, sometimes at a price that can even be 100% of what or more of what the original price was.
Wow. So I guess that leads me right into my next question. What's in it for a contractor to do this?
I think the market that we're in is hot right now, and buyers are wanting homes that are move-in ready. And so for them, if they can get a home, for $40,000, $50,000, put $50,000 in, but sell it for $200,000 or $300,000, there's a nice profit to be made for them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what happened in my case. Liane, full disclosure here, Liane was my realtor on the purchase that I just made, and the house that we ended up in, I know that we ended up paying more than double what he had invested in.
Yes.
So for someone like me, explain what's in it for someone who's buying a house to get a flipped house.
Well, for you, as you saw, you wanted something that was pretty move-in ready, that you didn't have to do a lot of work to, and that's what most buyers, I think, want right now. They're not looking for things that they have to dump, $20,000 into a new kitchen. So for you, you get the benefits of having a new house, or something that looks like a new house.
Yeah, essentially new.
Yeah.
I think that the price point is so important as well, because in my neighborhood in particular, and what I saw when we were looking at houses, is those houses that were priced right in the median where the neighborhood is, they were going, right?
Yes, absolutely. Pricing is key, area is key. So absolutely, if they can find a house in a great neighborhood, it's worth doing.
What makes a house flip worthy?
I think the price, I think the location, those are the 2 biggest things.
Does it have anything to do with the condition of the house at all? I know in a lot of cases we find that, a house is a disaster. It's, there's always one house on the street where everyone's like, this thing to go by. And in that case, that was the one I ended up buying.
Yeah.
But does that make for a good flipped house?
I think it does, and I think a lot can depend on the layout of the house, or what the layout could become to, and how much damage there is, and how much the contractor really wants to put in. If it needs a new roof and the contractor doesn't want to spend that kind of money, then that's an issue. So,
do you find, as a realtor, as you're showing people around, do you prefer to show homes like that?
Sometimes they're easier to sell,
really?
But I think, sure, you kind of shop with your eyes. So. But I think I always recommend to people that are buying them that you have to really do your homework and your inspections to make sure that the contractor really knew what they were doing.
You develop a relationship almost vicariously with those contractors, don't you? You know who some of those key players are.
I do, and I think that's really the way to find flips, because there's no field in MLS that says this house is a flip. So you really have to rely on your realtor to tell you who the good flippers are in town, and then we reach out to them and ask them what they have coming up.
Yeah. So what does that do to a neighborhood? The house that I bought, the house that you bought, does that change the values in the entire neighborhood?
Sure, yeah, it can definitely bring up the comps in the neighborhood. Absolutely.
And so is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is it? It's a good thing if you're trying to sell a house, I'm sure.
If other people want to come buy next to you, it might be a little bit of a bad thing.
All right, so what things are unique about a flipped home that a buyer would need to really put on their radar?
So it depends on the quality of the person doing the flip. Are they a general contractor, or I've seen other realtors that just go, I'm going to flip a house that looks easy enough, and they just kind of smack a coat of paint on it and do some landscaping and voila. So, it really depends on.
That's a disaster.
Yes. So you have to watch for that. Somebody who's got a good reputation for doing flips, somebody that pulls permits, because that's a big thing. Sometimes people do roofs and ACs without permitting, which can cause issues down the road.
And is that a realtor, as a realtor, is that part of what your responsibility is, to help kind of vet that stuff out?
Yeah, we can look for that in the public record, and then also when you get title insurance, a lot of times if there's open permits, that's something that pops up when you do that.
I think those relationships are also key. I know in my case in particular, we had a very funny story. The day that I closed, Liane and some good friends of mine were over to my house, and we opened a bottle of champagne, and I leaned against the island in the kitchen, and it moved. It was not connected to the floor.
None of us ever thought to check that.
And it didn't go through inspection, but you know,
Yeah.
there were several things it did. Now, in my case, the contractor was wonderful and came back out and said, we're so sorry, you fixed it and got it taken care of. But there were other situations like pipes that hadn't been completely cleaned out. I go to turn on the washer and nothing will come out of the pipes. Things that the inspectors don't find. The flippers can't get everything, can they?
Right. No, they really can't. And in that case, I recommend that you have a roofer come out, you have a plumber come out. Most of them either aren't going to charge you or might charge you $50 to visit and come check that kind of stuff. Because yeah, the inspector is a general inspector. They're not the expert on that.
All right, so let's talk about Florida as a state. It turns out that 5 of the top 7 markets in the country for flipped homes are in Florida.
It doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't. Why doesn't it?
I mean, everybody wants to live in the Sunshine State, right? So and we were hit hard in the downturn, and you know, some of these older houses that haven't had updates are just sitting there, so they're very attractive to flippers to come in, especially when we're in a hot real estate market and there's not enough inventory out there.
Do you think a lot of that had to do with the foreclosures after the crash?
I think
Like,
somewhat.
that they were bought low?
Sure, I think some of them were bought low, and there's still some trickling through that investors are able to grab up and flip.
All right, so if there's 2 or 3 really good tips you could give someone, they're looking to buy a house, this is something that's attractive to them, what would you share?
I think what I mentioned about not just doing the general inspection, but go above and beyond, hire a roofer, hire a plumber. In my case, I found out, and this is not the fault of the flipper, but the pipes inside my house were redone, but the pipes that run from the house to the sewage line were never redone. And about 6 months after I moved in, I started having sewage coming up my shower. And so it took a plumber shining a camera down through the pipes to tell me I had Orangeburg pipes from the 50s that were collapsing. So I had to spend about $3,000 and get those upgraded.
Wow, so what you're saying is that sometimes the flip, even though cosmetically it's going to look great, there may be other things to watch for, right?
And with any house you buy, whether it's a flip or not, that's a good thing to check on.
Right. All right, Liane, that's all very good information. Thank you so much for sharing it with
Thank
us.
you.
It's an exciting time.
Yes.